What I was trying to do this week was think, what can we be doing to really think about this when we go back to our schools? You've all learned a skill of learning online and teaching online. All the students can now learn online. It would be so sad to lose that. Take this opportunity to change the current models. Today's session is on taking online teaching to the next level. I guess most of the world now is learning how to teach online, learning how to interact with students online, etc. So this is going to be about taking it to the next level. What's going to happen when the schools open again? Are we going to change? Are we going to make a big difference? Or are all going to stay the same? And also, what type of things are coming in the world of online teaching? I'll explain a bit more in a minute. So today we're going to do 4 things. I'm going to talk about some history of online learning. I'm going to talk about some lessons that we're learning about online learning. I want to talk about what we're going to do for the next level. What are we going to do once we finish this big experiment of teaching at home and we go back to school? We go back to schools. Are we just going to stay the same, or are we going to take learning to another level? And lastly, I'm just going to show you some future trends that are coming out in online learning. As I said, this session is not focused on lots of small activities for you. That was what we did in the last session and the session before. This session is all about just ideas you can think about to get you to think more about where we're going to go in the future with online learning. Next week, we'll come back to more tangible ideas. So a bit of a history lesson for you guys. Let me just... So a little bit of a history lesson with online learning. Really, online learning starts with the idea of a video call, like what we're doing now. And the very first people to do this, the very first ever video call, might surprise you, was in 1967. I don't know who by, I just know that it was in 1967. And people like NASA, Mitsubishi in Japan, QuickCam, which is now Logitech, like QuickCam released its first camera in 1980s. People like AT&T were all trying to do video calls, but video calls were always done with phone technology, right? With telephone lines. They weren't on the internet. This is actually the first ever video phone that was came out of Japan. But all of these things were sort of this is all pre-1990s. Very interesting time. Lots of video things happening, but not really used in education. And then the biggest thing happened to video calling around the world, which was online calling, which was the introduction of Skype. And I don't know if everyone remembers Skype, but in 2003, they first came out and online. And what Skype did was really change the way we thought about making telephone calls. When Skype came out, the first thing that they did was you could just make a call for free online. And that was the first company to do it. And then they introduced that you could have 25 on a video call. And essentially, that was the birth of online teaching, because that was the first time you could really do this. And that's why it's so popular today. And I mean, it will always be around, I think. So what happened was a lot of people started teaching online with Skype. This is a little history lesson for you on online teaching, because I think if we look at what happened, it'll help you go think about the future. So then companies like Tutor ABC, VIP Kid, 51Talk, They started out just teaching Skype at home, and they started realizing they had more and more and more students. And around the early 2010s, these companies launched and became very, incredibly big. These guys now have hundreds of thousands of students all around the world. This is all before the coronavirus, okay? Yeah, we'll talk about Zoom as well. Zoom is definitely part of this presentation. After that, a little bit slow on the slide, a whole bunch of companies came out. So we started out with all these companies here, and then we started seeing people like Dada, EF started working online, GoGo Kid, Q Kids. All these other companies started to come out to teach kids online. Also, companies like Zoom started to appear. So these were all the platforms, Zoom and GoToMeeting, and then eventually a company called EEO and another company called LearnCube came out, and a few other ones like this one, ClickMeeting, came out. But now Skype is a bit, yeah, cool. So companies like, and I will show you now. If you guys just, Mayo, if you keep watching, I'll show you all this as well, okay? And guys, you can ask a lot of questions. Today, because there's so many of you, I'm not going to answer all your questions. And also, today is really not about Studycat. You can go back and look at all of our other webinars. I have many, many webinars on there. Today is all about where is online teaching going, as I said, the next level for online teaching. So let's have a look at some of these platforms, because I think it's worth you seeing them so you know where we're going in the future. So on these platforms, there's probably lots of things you haven't seen before, but these are the 4 biggest online companies in the world for teaching. And I won't tell you who they are, but these are the 4 biggest ones. And I want to see what you notice about them. So on the screen now, you can see teacher, student, content. What do you notice about the content? I love it when you comment. It's great when you comment. I just can't answer so many questions. So yeah, I just want to see what you think. This is one of the big online companies. Okay, there's a chick family, but yeah, it's kind of interactive, knew it. But I think what I wanted to highlight, let me see what other people say. Yeah, it's kind of interesting for kids. Yeah, Terry, it's very static, isn't it? The picture's kind of meaningful, yeah. So what this is when it's basically the teacher is in one video, the student, I have to cover up their faces, but the teacher is in one video and the student's here. And here you have, it's basically a PPT presentation, same as what I'm doing. And it's left to right, and the content, is anyone going to take a guess where the content comes from? It's actually, you can see the content down here. Yeah, it comes from a book from McGraw-Hill. Yes. So what happened is most publishers just started to get PDFs and give them to online platforms and put their content online. And it wasn't, to me, it's interesting, but it's not that interactive and it's not that interesting. I mean, it's not that, how can I say, it's not that creative. It's just a textbook online. That's all it is. And then we'll see another one here. It's another big company. They've changed a little bit. They have the teacher, they have the student, and they have a chat box, which is great. They have some things you can write on the screen, but still it's left to right. It's sort of similar to what I'm doing right now. So it doesn't make it very interactive. It's not, there's no animations. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it's time to move to another level. This company also has stars. Now, you can't use these companies. These are private companies, but just to show you what's happening online. The next company, what do you notice about this one? It's a little bit different than the last one. Yes, Corazon. That's exactly right. Putting the same as face-to-face teaching online. Now, this one here is interesting. It's a newer company. What they've tried to do is make it more kid-friendly, right? It's kind of like rounded edges. They've tried to make it a little bit more exciting. But still, it's kind of the same old, It's kind of the same old style, you know, teacher here, student here, some chat box, and then left to right. So I just wanted to show you that. That's what all the big companies in the world were doing for online teaching for many, many years. But what's happened now is things are starting to change, right? So I'm going to show you two platforms that have come out to challenge the way that we used to teach online, which was just one-to-one and skip through a PPT like I am doing right now. So one platform is called LearnCube. I've shown it before. LearnCube. I'll just type it in here. You can check it out. And another one is called ClassIn. What LearnCube did was they said, okay, more people on the screen is key. So they've added more people. But what their platform is, it's really a whiteboard that's very interactive. So it's not left to right. It's not left to right. You can prepare things before and you can jump around. You can go, you can, you know, add documents very quickly, add images in very quickly. You can change a lot of what you're doing. They basically tried to mimic what is happening on a real whiteboard when you're in a classroom. So if you have a look here on the next slide, if you have a look on the next slide, it's not mute. I doubt it's not muted. Everyone else can hear me, right? Yeah, so I can't unmute you, I don't think. It's muted as admin. You might have to go and check it yourself in there. Awesome. So you can just see here, and I recommend checking out LearnCube. This is actually their founder, Alex. They basically say you prepare all the class before, and then you can jump around. You can click and you can go to slide 8 and then go to slide 82. And it really helps you just be a bit more flexible with your teaching. Thank you, Jasmine Rivera. The other thing in LearnCube has is you can jump between, quickly click on this and you'll go to YouTube, or jump over here to another page that you have open. So it's making the teaching online much more dynamic and much more interactive, much more than, for example, ClickMeeting does, which is what I'm using for a webinar. So my advice is check out what LearnCube does, and also the next group. I don't want to spend too long marketing for these guys, but I really recommend that you check out, this is called ClassIn. Now, this looks really messy. Yeah, exactly. So one of the hardest things is to navigate, but this is just a class I did recently, but you can see that I can move, yeah, that's very good, Brian. You can move the faces around. You can make them bigger and smaller. You have dice that you can play. You can move everything. It's not static and left to right. It's just a whiteboard and some video, and then you can jump around and work with your kids. So for my advice, when you're talking about taking it to the next level, try out LearnCube and try out ClassIn, because both of them really take teaching. They really were built by real teachers. Zoom and Skype were never made for teaching in the first place. It's a little bit slow on the feed, so I'm just going to jump. Sorry, guys, a little bit slow on the feed. So that was just two. So that's LearnCube. And somebody just type these in, and ClassIn. My advice is just check them out, because yeah, exactly, Tony. Zoom is set up to be a business meeting. So it's interesting that when we talk about online teaching, and then we're all talking about Zoom, talk about things like ClassIn and LearnCube, and then even ClickMeeting. Microsoft is starting to bring out school stuff as well, but people should be designing it with the offline mentality in mind. It should be things like offline. What can we do offline, and then bring it in online, okay? So now it's time to talk about some lessons that I have learned from teaching online. Yes, so Zoom is almost having a major issue at the moment, but I'm not here to badmouth Zoom. I'm here to just discuss some of the different ways of thinking about what we can do online. So in lessons learned, I just want to talk about some of the things, I would just say my biggest 3 takeaways. Now, I've worked for one of the big online providers before, and I think I've watched 2,000 or 3,000 teachers teach online. 2 people that I associate with very closely work at 5-1 Talk and VIP Kids. So there's a lot of lessons that we've learned from watching teachers teach online. So one of the first ones is, it's very slow to bring up the slides today. I apologize, guys. I'm not sure why it's so slow to bring them up, but we'll get there. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, oh, you can see? That's awesome. I can't see it. It's meant to have a picture of 3 kids, right? I wonder what you can see on the screen now. Can you tell me, Paul Granger? Is it 3 kids? Because I can just wing it. Yes, great. Well, I can't see them, but I can tell you. So at the moment, we're going through this huge learning process, right? There are over 1 billion kids learning online. There are millions of teachers learning online. They're trying to learn how to do things. And it's this huge experiment in learning. And we're all online trying to do it. So what I think it's this idea of being a teacher, going back to your first year of teaching again. It's almost like you remember when you first started teaching and you were kind of lost a bit. You didn't know how to go around the classroom. You didn't know how to act with kids and stuff. So I think there's a lot of teachers out there in the world at the moment, and they're learning the platforms. They're learning how to interact, and they're learning all the functions, and they're just starting to get content. So I think if you think of it like that, it's just like being a first-year teacher again. You won't get as overwhelmed. Yes, it is overwhelming, right, Miriam? It's very overwhelming. So, oh, Eleanor, I'm sure. I'm old. I can handle it. I'm sure we can do it. But the idea is that we can be taking, it can't just be sitting online and talking at kids. We need to be taking it further. So my first advice is go back to my last webinar and watch it, because it really talks about personalization and differentiation. So now that all your kids are at home, you can personalize every single lesson. You can be getting the children to bring in their own content. They can be showing you things from around the classrooms. They can be doing things off the screen. So my first advice for taking things to the next level is really think about personalizing, letting the kids tell you what they want to do by showing you around, and differentiating, meaning let them choose some of the topics around the house, rather than it just being you focusing on the screen. 2 a.m. in Guatemala. Hello, Sylvia Liseth Estrada Leon de Cachon. So, yeah, so from the last webinar, there's a lot about that. My next point is this, and this is my number 1 point about what you can do right now to improve how you teach online. Every class is recorded. I hope you are recording. So what can we do with our class recordings? What can we do with class recordings? I'm asking you guys. Yep, listen, again, review, evaluate, Matt, yeah, great. Post it, evaluate, prove, a tool for reflection. Good on you, Corazon. That's a Dip Tessel person there. See ways to improve, analyze it, reviewing, think about improvement. Yeah, share it. Emery, I totally agree. Share it with your friends. Send it over to another teacher. Well, excepting you have kids, but you should always write to the parents and say, can I use this class for training purposes? Most parents will be very happy about that. Yeah, share it with absent people, right? All these points. Students can review after class, right? They could never do that before. They go to class, forget everything, and then go home. So to take your teaching to the next level online is watch every class again, go back. You can fast forward a bit. Teachers can play it back, and then they can start to develop skills and identify issues. Now, if you ask the parents, if you have younger kids, if you can use it for development purposes, I love sharing my classes with my friends. So I'll share it with another teacher I know and say, tell me what you did like about this, what you didn't like, what could I improve? And it's a lovely way for teachers to start sharing. Coming to webinars is one way to learn, but I think one of the best ways is watch another friend of yours teach and then give them feedback and have a discussion about it. Yeah, exactly, Brian. And I love the way, so the kids can go home and they can press pause, stop, start, go back, or what did the teacher say there? So rather than having to stop every time a child asks something, you can sort of say, okay, go back later and watch this. Such a lovely thing that we can do to take our teaching to the next level. Most of these people have a function to keep all the recordings, and as more people record their classes, the price will drop dramatically, as we know. Okay, so this one is the top tip from a friend of Studycat's and a friend of ours called Ross Thorburn. Ross Thorburn is an expert in language teaching and runs the TEFL Training Institute podcast. Ross's main thing about is online learning is that so many systems are set up to go either left or right. I don't know if that went the right way for you, either left or right. So that it's very hard to sort of jump around. And a lot of content is set up to be very linear. But if you're in class, how often do you jump around? You say to the kids, go back and have a look in the textbook. Remember when we were on page 40? Go back to page 37. You'll jump around all the time and you'll go up to the whiteboard, then the textbook, and then a video, and then something. So the problem with exactly. Make it like a magazine. So one huge problem with online learning is left to right mentality. We need to take that to the next level and use different platforms so we can jump around like a real classroom. So anything that you can think about to make it non-linear, right? Prep up before, have photos ready, have videos ready. So it's not just left, right, keep going forward. There's no way in an offline class you would always go forward. You would often jump back, but it's very hard in an online class. Let's read what some people have to say. Unfortunately, I'm going left to right because that's how the system is set up, right? So I'm actually giving you a bad example, but this is a very big class with over 100 people in it. Oh yeah, Prezi's crazy. Prezi makes me feel sick, but it's an awesome tool to make it not feel like, even though you're pressing left to right, it feels like you're going in different directions. So get creative with that. Okay, this is, and then my next big one, and I say this every week to all of you, every week I say this, is get offline. Get off the screen. So suddenly we have a class down here. Now I'm not going to do anything today because I do something every week for you, but think about what else you can be using off the screen. Go to the big picture. And here I am now. Now how comes my class, left, right, we're doing things together. We can actually start to see that there's something we can do. Okay, everyone say stop. There's flashcards. I've got everything here available for me. You could be writing things here, as I always say. So this is something you can go back to next week. I have a whole webinar on this. But, using what's off the screen, using your blocks, using flashcards, and getting kids to think about that there's much more to it, and then getting the kids to do it as well. You don't always have to be staring at the screen. You can be doing things in front of you. Okay? Next one, to take things to the next level. Lots of things today, guys, so I'm going to speed up a bit. All right, this is the bit that I'm most excited about. And this is really about you guys thinking about something different, okay? The mini boards are great, Tramton. So coronavirus is going to end. I mean, it's not going to end. Sorry. Coronavirus is the schools are going to open again. We know that, right? We know our schools are going to open again. So what's going to happen after the schools open? Are we all going to go back to exactly the same way we used to teach? Or are we going to try new things? We're all being thrown into a new way of thinking. And what I would hate to see is that we all go back and just do what we always did. So let's have a look. I've put together some models that I think are worth having a look at about what we can do in the future. A different way of thinking about this, right? What I'd like to say from the beginning is, though, as I just said, we're all trying new things and we're all learning a new skill. And so are our kids. Yeah, Sylvia, that's what I'd like to hear. But I want to show you some new ideas for blending, okay? So here's what we were doing before. This is before the schools closed, right? Before the schools closed, we used to say, go to school offline and do some homework online at home, right? So this is before the schools closed. We would go to class offline, show up, do our class, language class, and then go home and do some homework. And this cycle might be once a week or every day, but it was kind of the same. Do a class, do some homework. It's time to now. Unfortunately, really what's happening is kids are going to class online and they're doing their homework. It's not that different, really. It's just that the class is now online. So the only thing that's really changed at the moment is that the class is online and it's not offline. But the cycle is still the same. Do some homework, go to class online. Do some homework, go to class online. You could flip it and do the homework first. But I think now that we have so much access to online learning, let's think about what models we can change. Yeah, exactly, right? So let's have a look, Miss Anna Hasper. Let's have a look at some new ideas. So here's my first one, right? First idea, I'm going to show you 4 models. These are just models that I think could work and other people have been talking about. So firstly, it's go to a one-to-one class online and then go to a larger group offline, right? So very simple one. This is a very simple one. Maybe just do one-to-one classes online for 20 minutes. And then when you go to an offline class, it could just be an interactive task. It doesn't have to be learning as such. It could just be using language. So in the class, you're getting very focused. And outside the class, you're just doing something very interactive and collaborative. So that's my first model. Let's look at the next model. In this model, we start with the kids or the learners doing some content and self-study on their own. Okay, so doing some content on their own and then doing some in an online class. So then come to an online class and do some practice and focus. So really focus in 1 to 6 and the teacher can be really focused in on some very key input points. And then go offline and do a large group activity where the kids can use the language once a week. So this is just another model. I'm just experimenting with some models. So this would be offline. You do some self-study. Yeah, this is very flipped learning. Then go online and then go offline. So you're integrating both. Some online would be a smaller group maybe where you get some sort of more focused practice and you don't have to leave your house. You can just do it at home and comfortable at home, and then come to a big group. And rather than wasting time in a big group doing lots of input, you'd just be doing lots of output and discussing and talking. Okay, that's model number 2. Let's get ready for model number 3. Model number 3 could be, I like this one actually. It could be the input could be an online input like this, 1 to 100, 40 minutes, right? This is just like we're doing. It's sort of a big group. It's one way. It's kind of one way here. It's not much interaction, a little bit of interaction, and then they can record it and review it. And that means you can reach a lot of people in a lot of places at one time, right? So the kids could all be learning one thing there. Then come into a small group offline. And this is where you do a nice, rather than having a large group offline, it could just be a small group of 5 or 6. And the teacher can really use that to start monitoring and saying, okay, how well are you doing here? Writing down all the mistakes, etc. Right? Now, teachers often don't have any time to give back individual feedback. And that's a big problem, right? And in class, if you have to give feedback to every kid, 6 kids or 10 kids, it's a lot of time that the other kid isn't doing anything. So you're trying to give feedback to the kids. But basically, you could say, okay, kids, go home now. And then you would speak to them throughout the week. and you could be doing 5 to 10 minutes of feedback of accuracy on a one-to-one online call. So it would be a big class, then a small group offline, and then a one-to-one call. And that's just another nice way, because kids might want to get the feedback when they're on their own, right? So that would be like lowering their effective filter, getting them comfortable with some feedback. So I call this is just model 3. And I really like this one because it sort of lets the kids have a nice relaxing way to get their feedback from the teacher and focus on the accuracy and their problems. Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course it's tricky if you have to call up 20 students, but still it's just another way of thinking. And I'm just trying to think, okay, you had 760 in a webinar, but in a normal school, right? You might have 20 students once a week, and then they come in, you record all that, you do a big class for them, they've done some learning, and then when you might have 5 minutes each to give them some online feedback when they have time. Yeah. Okay. Here's another model. I'm just giving you some ideas, right? I don't know if they're good or bad. I'll ask you in a minute which one you might like, because you might not like any of them. So I really like this one. This is obviously from what I would prefer, this one, but it doesn't mean it's the best one or anything. It just suits my situation here in Shanghai. So this one would be self-study on an app. So Fun English for Schools, for example, they could use an app for 15 minutes a day. And then they could go to a big group class, really short though, like 20 minutes, just nice big group class. If they miss the class, they can record it, watch it back later. So they do some self-study, then the same topic, which would just be input. Then they might go to an offline class where they can go in 10 kids. When I say small, I mean like 10 or 12 kids. So then they can do some collaboration, they can work together. I've attended since you are giving us. Oh, this is not very practical. Usually, I give a lot of practical ideas, but anyway, small groups online and offline. Then you could have them. This is for the bit that I really love, and no one is doing it yet. You could have students speaking to each other online in English without the teacher. And now we all know that kids want to talk to each other and do peer learning. And I think that there's a beautiful thing that we could do is let kids talk to each other online. So it's so easy now, and all of you know how to do it, and all the kids have done online learning. So all you have to do is say, okay, I want 4 kids at this time will meet in this Zoom room, and they will talk to each other. It could just be a 10-minute talk or a 20-minute talk or a 40-minute talk. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, it would be a lot of extra help. And then you could do a one-to-one class with them. Now, obviously, this is a dream model maybe, but this is just what I would love to be able to do, is that there's some learner autonomy. Let me just get my pencil. So up here is very learner autonomy. This is a lot of input. This lets the kids collaborate and work together and, do some task-based learning type of things. But here's where the kids get to decide. The kids get to choose when they want to speak and who they want to speak to. A lot of kids are really busy now, but how nice would it be if there was 10 minutes where they could talk to a friend in another country, for example? It doesn't have to be in the same country. It could be in another part of the city, or it could just be a friend from school, but they have to try and speak English. And then it would be recorded and the teacher could monitor it later. Once you've got it set up, it wouldn't be that hard to monitor. I'm just trying to show you some different ways of thinking. So what I want to do now is another quiz. Go down and choose which model do you like, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Because, and look, when I say prefer, it could be what's easier for you, what's harder, I don't know, for me, I like 4, but it doesn't have to be 4. Some people might think that's way too hard for me. You can go on the screen. I've got the, you can click on the screen, can you? I've put up the survey, guys. Can you guys see the survey, or is it already? Oh, because I did it the other way. Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's just, I'm just reading here. So what have we got here? Lots of 4s, 2, 3s. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I see. I made a mistake, guys. My bad. See, I wasn't very good at the technology. I really like the model 2 works for my students. Yeah. So all I was trying to do, guys, was just trying to do this week was think, what can we be doing to really think about this when we go back to our schools? Don't just go back and think, wow, you've all learned a skill of learning online and teaching online. All the students can now learn online. It would be so sad to lose that. Take this opportunity to change the current models, because I'm going to talk about more in a minute, but you know, we've been teaching language almost the same way for 50, 60 years. It doesn't matter. Grammar translation, communicative approach, you know, engage, study, activate, task-based. It's all the same. It's all go to a school and learn and then do some homework. That's what's been happening for the last 50 years. People have tried to repackage it in lots of different ways, but it's not different. It's just called something different. You know, they're all really the same thing. You go and learn and then you go home. And we have an opportunity now through technology and through online learning to really break down that sort of status quo of how we used to do learning. Thank you, Mr. Where's Holly? Oh yeah, Holly, the thing. Yeah, well, Holly, I really, you always have great comments. And Holly, this is the thing. You're all here doing this. You're all here listening today. It's our job to try and change the schools. We're trying to change schools by running webinars and changing people's ideas. But teachers need to go in and academic managers and say, hey, guys, can we try and do something different? And you know who will want to change is parents. And parents are the ones who will dictate whether schools will have to change. Because parents pay money to the schools. And if parents want change, schools will change. So let me go on. The future. Are you ready for the future? All right, I'm going to take you guys on yeah, we can't hold the status quo with the quarantine. Yeah, thank you, mister. I like what everyone is saying here. Anyway, let's move on, guys. There's so much positivity in this group today. So in the future, there's a lot coming. And I'm just going to show you four things for the future, okay? Number one, HD quality streaming video is very, very close to being in everyone's home. Even if, you know, you're less advantaged financially, this learning on a PC or on a phone is going to become almost so easy to be transferred into the lounge room and TV. Now, it might not happen next year, it might not happen the year after, but it's coming. And streaming on the TV will become quite normal for people. Foreign access, yeah. So on the TV, you'll be able to have full screen teachers, you know, seeing everything that they're doing. They won't be sitting in a little corner. They'll be able to do things like, you know, really big TPR activities, and they'll be able to be doing singing and dancing. They'll be able to see students, especially if you have that small market. Yeah, Sasha, it is happening already, right? And it's starting to happen, and it's going to happen more and more and more. That 2 and 6 year old market where kids are moving around and they don't want to sit down, great. Put them on the sofa and let them move around the lounge room, and that will change the way online learning works. Mom and dad can be in the class as well. We've got to break down the walls that it has to be like this. Yeah, I love it though, Matt. Like you can do storytelling. Everyone sit down in the lounge room and there'll be kids in different lounge rooms around the place, all learning together. It really would change the way we think about language learning has to be at a desk in front of your PC or in front of a textbook. It can become part of the house, right? So that's the first big change I think is going to happen. Next one, what is AR? What is AR? Let's see. I think everyone should know what this is. Yeah, Holly, I agree. A lot of teachers don't like parents in there, but I think it has to happen eventually. Yes, augmented reality. So AR is augmented reality, different than virtual reality. Augmented reality just means that you are augmenting or changing the reality around you. So assault rifle, Mayo, you're very funny. So augmented reality is already happening. It's things like you can change your background. So if you're on Zoom, you can actually change what the background looks like. It's not very good, but you can do it. It means that you'll be able to move things around and manipulate the reality in front of you. It's things like walking around with your phone. I'll just go to the next one. You know, kids will be able to look online and hold up their tablets or phones and change how the reality looks in front of them. Now, most evidence shows that it's being developed that while you're in an online class, you could actually be doing things like this, you know, holding up cards to the camera in the class, but they would be actually becoming 3D when the kids see it. So this is going to be a big change in online learning. It's going to enhance the way content works. I don't know how far away it is. Studycat's not doing that. Studycat has awesome content for online. Look, these are all just things coming in the future. That's why I'm just trying to say that things are coming and we're going to be ready for this. You can see here, this one's called, I think, Invajoy. Anyway, you can look them up, right? And you get the apps and they sort of change the way the reality happens. Really nice things happening with all of this, right? SparkoCam, yeah. ManyCam is another one that you can use. There's lots of these things happening. For me, I think that what's more exciting is this, where you can start doing CLIL classes, you know, content language integrated learning, where, you know, kids could be building a project in front of you, but it's also happening on the screen as well. Another one is there's a really good company called Museo, and they've actually mapped out all the museums around the world for kids to walk around in. So rather than it's just looking at pictures, they walk around as if they're in the museum. So they hold it up in their house and they'll see a picture and they'll see the Mona Lisa, but it's like it's almost there. And that a lot of people are trying to integrate these into online teaching. So imagine you're teaching about a museum or you're teaching the Mona Lisa, and you could be taking them to the Louvre and the kids could feel like they're in the Louvre while you're in class. Look, I don't have the answers right now, but these things are very close to coming, and you'll find out why at the end. There's another company called Osmo, which is kind of cool. They what you're doing, so anything that you're doing here will change and happen on the screen. So it means that there's offline and online together. And I think this is a huge thing that's happening, you know, even with us at Studycat with Fun English for Schools. Whatever the kids are doing on their app, you can then look at it in a score online. A lot of this idea of whatever is happening on the table is also being projected onto the screen. So there's this world where offline and online are going to merge together. You won't think of offline and online. A few more to wrap up. The next one is virtual reality. This is more like where you actually go into a new world, a virtual world, but it's going to change the way online language teaching works. Can you imagine in a world soon where you won't go onto a Zoom platform, your kids would put on goggles and you can all meet, for example, if you had teenagers at a cafe, right? And then, you know, the teacher would say, hi, kids, go and order something. And you could watch your kids walking around, and you could be all in different countries, and you can be learning while the thing's on and having conversations and answering things. And this technology is already started. So it's going to change the way online teaching works. But will machines replace the teacher? This is what I hear a lot of teachers say. You know, a lot of companies would love to replace the teacher with technology, but no way they're going to replace us. But one thing that will not replace teachers, but enhance teaching is this. What is AI? Yeah, Brian Lewis for the win there. Excellent, Michelle. Excellent, Tony. Excellent, Michael. Excellent, Sherwin. So AI is just artificial intelligence. Now, what is artificial intelligence? Everybody says that their language learning program has AI in it. And I don't think that's true. Chairman, good to see you. I haven't seen you for so long, but we're almost finished. No, you can never replace the passion. Yeah. So artificial intelligence is this idea that, Yeah, it learns from input. Excellent, Miss Holly. So, Holly, the idea is every interaction that a learner has with a platform or an app or a live teacher can be recorded and documented, and it can be assessed for errors and identify issues and loop back to the teacher for the learning goals. Everything that happens will be able to go through an AI machine learning algorithm and come back for better learning goals, which means that every child or every learner will end up with completely individualized curriculums and assessment. It won't be one size fits all. We'll know exactly what each child is doing wrong or right, and that we'll be able to help them by feeding back to them what they need to focus on. Things like Fun English, which have a basic form of this, help do that, because every time a kid hits on something and they get it wrong, we know, and it feeds back what they're getting wrong. But it's not about robots. Artificial intelligence is not about robots replacing the teachers. It's about enhancing enabling a teacher to have more quality connections. And the other big thing it's going to do is share big data. It means that kids or language learners in Vietnam, Korea, Japan, Iran, Egypt, Guatemala, where else are we today? Mexico, India, wherever we are today, kids from all around the world, that big data will start to see common patterns in language learning. Maybe kids who come from a Indo-European language or a Germanic language or a Sino language would have different ways of acquiring new language. We'll start to see trends in language learning that will help us change the way we think about language learning. And I'm excited because all of this online teaching is essentially gathering data on how kids learn. And it could be the largest revolution in language learning ever, because we can start to really see how mistakes happen and things like that. You don't need to read this. I'm going to send it out to you. But this is from a guy named Bernard Marr, who's a futurist and a really quite amazing thinker on what will happen with AI. But I just love that what he says is that even though experts believe the critical presence of teachers is irreplaceable, there will be many changes to the teacher's job and to how we do our teaching, right? And to best practices. And what I like to say is the teacher won't be replaced, but the way we teach will be replaced. The teacher won't be replaced, but the way we teach. So we'll still bring all the emotions and connections, just like now. We're interacting, we're talking, but it will change the way we teach, because we'll know more about our students. We'll know every detail of how they're learning. We won't come to class blind. We'll come to class knowing how each kid needs to be. So I'm very passionate about this, right? That you need the emotional connection with the teacher, but you have the data from the AI and the machine learning to help you. But what will be the biggest impact in online teaching in the next 2 years? What do you think it will be? The biggest impact in online teaching will come from what? Let's see. It might be a trick question. No, it's more specific. Something more specific. Yep, the teachers, but not really. Not AI. Another virus. Sherman, you could be right? It could be another virus that might force us back into the online classes. No, something more specific. No, something more specific. Something that will change the way the actual technology works. Not our skills. I think our skills will keep improving anyway. This will be one thing that will change everything. And I don't think anyone's thought about it yet. But in the ed tech world, it's all we talk about. The government might be a big one, but this is global. This is a global thing that will change the world. Wanting? No, that's a bit too... Melissa is on the way. Someone is thinking mobile devices, internet connections. Have a think about that. So whenever I'm lucky enough to work with a lot of different ed tech people around the world. I get to work with, the heads of LearnCube and ClassIn and other online learning companies, etc. Big Brother, yes, Anna has, but it could be Big Brother. No, the biggest single change in online learning will come from 5G. And there's no questions about this. This is what everyone talks about, because 4G is 20 megabytes a second. 5G will be 25 times faster than that. Now, you think about this, guys. When we had 3G, you could do a telephone call online and maybe watch a movie, maybe. Then 4G came, and it was only like 5 times faster than that. And you could start watching movies and do video calls. The whole world changed with 4G. Every telephone call you do now is like this, right? You talk to your friend online like this. 4G is what we're on right now. We're using 4G technology, right? That's what it is. Yeah, I agree with you, Mayo. But 5G is going to blow everyone out of the water because it's going to be 25 times faster than that. Yes, Anna, that's ridiculous. Yeah, that's funny. So there'll be no dropouts. Everything will be crystal clear. The interactivity will be insane. You'll be able to play games with each other online by touching different things. You'll get live data feeds coming up on what people are saying. People could have transcriptions in real time. As I'm talking, the transcription can be coming up. We already have that with Skype, but it will be so fast due to the processing. There'll be full screen, multiple applications happening. So I'm not saying it will definitely come, but the argument is that it's there's lots of different conspiracies about 5G. I'm not getting into all of that. I'm just saying it will impact online learning. 5G is going to change the way online learning happens. It's going to change the way, because the speed, the only thing that slows down our videos now is the speed of the internet. The reason why all the functions aren't put onto the platforms is because of the speed of the internet. So it's going to change the way we learn online. So some final thoughts from me in my 1 hour every week. And it's been wonderful today because it's a different way of doing the webinar today. Last week was very activity heavy. This week is more about just getting you to think about the future and thinking about how to change, going to the next level. So my final thought is rethink your content. Don't just think of left or right content. Think of content that can be changed and manipulated where you can, like downloading the Fun English for Schools app. Change is now normal, right? Someone said that earlier. Change is the new normal. If we go back to the schools and just do what we always did, it's going to be a bit sad. So change is the new normal, right? So because change is the new normal, think about how you can experiment and do more things and try changing everything that you've done before, because we now have one of the biggest opportunities to enhance learning. I never saw this online learning as a way to stop learning or to change learning. It's a way to enhance learning. You've now got kids captivated in the comfortable environment of the home. What can you do to change learning? And especially when we go back to our schools, how can you change the models that you've been using for the last 10 years? That's all I have to say on this today. The link for all the webinars, I'll just share that with you very quickly for anyone who wants to go on to the website for the webinars. Remember, every week, guys, I've only got one more up, but I'll add a whole bunch next week. Over the weekend, I'll add the next 4. At the moment, because the schools are closed, we're still offering 30 days of Fun English for Schools. You can download it and use it in your online classes. Very easy, just go for a trial. Remember to sign up to the Studycat Club for all the worksheets and cool stuff. And I'm getting to Facebook. Next week is all about using different technologies at home, like apps, and we're going to do a big focus on what you can do with Fun English for Schools. This week wasn't about that. Very last thing to show you is add me on LinkedIn. Always follow us on LinkedIn. And most importantly, please go to studycat.com and check us out on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We are working on getting better certificates to all of you. I understand. And yes, go back and check out our past webinars. It's been an absolute pleasure today. Lots of new people. Great work there from, who can I say was just impressive today? Mayo, Matt Irving, Anna Hasper, what a star. Jane. There was lots of great, really interactive. Tony, as usual, super interactive people today. Good to see you back, Chairman. Yeah, there's so much. I can't keep up with all these comments. So all I can say is have a wonderful day. Oh, bandwidth. What did Frank Foley say about bandwidth? Or that was my guess. After and the week after. Thank you, Terry Valesco, at 4 o'clock in the morning. What a nice thing to see you there. And who was there at 2 a.m.? The next webinar is on the 14th. Check out the link I just dropped in there. Sign up for the next one. We also have a forum. Sorry, I just want to share this with you. I totally forgot to share, guys. This is what is coming up next. If anyone has the forum link who can help me, what's it called? The future. We're also running some really cool forums, and I really recommend that you come to this. Yeah, that's going to be a big one next week on the 14th. Yes. Awesome, guys. Peace. Have a great day. Very enjoyable today. Cheers. Stay safe. Yes, Miss Ninja. Oh, I don't know. I want to know who the person was that was in 2 a.m. in Guatemala. Someone said earlier. Yes, Sylvia. Thank you for being up so late. I hope you get a good sleep. Listen. And Mexico. Thank you, Adrian Eduardo Garcia Silva. Peace. Nidra means rare. What a cool name. And another one in Mexico. Ivy. Guys, we're trying to put on sessions for the Mexico time zone and the South American and American time zone. So have a look out. I'll put some on for your time zone, more like 7 p.m. at night. All right, I'm out of here, guys. Have a great day and